All right, let's start talking about microaggressions. The first thing I want to talk about microaggressions is the term itself, microaggressions. The micro part makes it seem like it's a really small thing, you know? Like this right here is a post it note that says microaggressions. But if you change your perspective, this also says microaggressions. And if you bring them forward together, they're about the same size. So, depending on your perspective and your experience in life, microaggressions can seem like not a big deal, pretty small, or they can be everything. When I started kindergarten, it was the first time I'd really heard the phrase, sticks and stones can break your bones, but words can never hurt you. And since I was a really small kid and adults were saying that around me, I believed it. And it wasn't until I grew up and had a little bit more worldly experience that I realized that bones heal a lot faster than the wounds of words. A microaggression is oftentimes just delivered as a compliment. So, for a person with African American looking hair, you know, the textured hair, right? A lot of people like to over compliment and even touch their hair, right? If that ever happened just one time in life, two times in life, maybe not a big deal. Maybe it's somewhat like that. But the more times it happens, the closer and closer it gets, and your perspective starts to shift. You become more of an object that people feel that they can just approach and touch without any question about entering into your personal space. You couple that with questions like, where are you from? Or even worse, what are you? I get that one an awful lot. Being racially ambiguous, I get the what are you question. That is another thing that makes me feel like I'm more of an object, you know, not a human being with my own existence. You couple people trying to touch your hair or your skin with questions constantly of what are you, and it starts to hurt a bit, and it hurts over time a lot more than a broken bone. There are so many different variations on microaggressions based on an individual's identity and life experience, right? So the same microaggression that is like this for someone could be like this for somebody else, right? So how can you be expected to navigate the world without knowing all the nuances of everybody's history of oppression and compounding trauma? It seems impossible, right? Well, almost. One of the first things you can do is just start being very aware of your language and how people are reacting to your language. We're pretty good at picking up on cues and signals of people in our family or our friends. You know, if they start getting a little uncomfortable, you can tell right away. But with strangers, and especially people of marginalized identities, it's not often that we approach a situation or a conversation with the intent to just make sure they feel safe and okay throughout the whole thing. So, if you're going to work on that, that's really, really great. That's a first step. The second step is to just think about a way that you can handle a situation if that person does make you aware that you have just transgressed with a microaggression. So, if their body language changes, you know, maybe they get a little more still, maybe they start making less eye contact, like that's a signal. But someone could also just tell you straight up, that's not always something I want to do personally. If I had to go around telling every single person who had a microaggression against me about what they did, that is really exhausting. Sometimes it's just easier to smile, nod, and walk away. And that's my right. I mean, I can walk away from any conversation that I want to, but it can leave people, especially the people that know us pretty well, with a sense that they didn't do anything wrong and they didn't really learn anything from the situation. So if someone does come up with the energy to tell you in the moment that they had a problem with something you said, first of all, know that they trust you enough with their emotions and that weight that they're carrying around that they're guessing that you are a safe person to put that onto, okay? To teach in that moment. It is not their job to do that. If they do, that's actually a gift. Oftentimes, when I try to express that, and to me, I consider it a gift. Like, hey, I want to let you know that that's actually an example of a microaggression. To me, I'm offering that as a gift so that person doesn't do it again to somebody else without knowing. And it can be really hard when I give that gift of energy and somebody reacts by going, I didn't mean to, I'm not racist, like, I really like you, or I love you, like, that, right, Crystal? Oh my gosh, I feel so bad, I feel so terrible. And now what's happened is it went from me being offended and trying to help remedy the situation with my own energy to now me trying to comfort the other person. A different approach that could be taken that I find much more effective in situations is just acknowledging that it happened, apologizing, and moving on. So, for example, if you tell me that I am so well spoken and that is a microaggression, and I say, you know what, I kind of feel like that was a microaggression, one of the things you can do is pause. Remember, it's not about you in the moment. It is about me or the person who brought that up. You don't have to agree with the person right in that moment. You don't have to say, oh my gosh, like, oh, I believe that. Like, you don't even have to believe it. But what you do have to do is exhibit respect. That is something universal that all people should carry with them in life. Here's an example of a respectful way to approach that if you're not 100% on board with them correcting you, but you still want to remain respectful. If I say, hey, I feel like that was a bit of a microaggression, or you might not have known that, so I want to point it out to you, you can say, I wasn't aware of that. I won't say that again. Or if somebody doesn't want you to touch them and you've already done it, you could say, I didn't realize what I was doing. I will try not to do that again. If you'd like to throw in an apology, a quick I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with that. We tell kids to do that all the time. And it just is for the other person. It's not for yourself. You do not have to fall into the pattern of feeling horrible or feeling terrible. What you need to do is take that gift and return it with respect. And that's it. I'm not asking you to, go into all the nuances in that moment, unless the other person wants to. If they want to continue giving the gift, great. If they don't, look it up on your own. Google is your friend. There are so many ways to handle a situation where you have, where it's been acknowledged that you've just spoken or acted in a way that is a microaggression. So I just want you to keep in mind that the most important thing is to remember in the moment, that moment is not about you. And it's probably not even about that situation right now. It's about a lifetime of receiving these messages over and over and over again. So just keep in mind that sometimes they can seem micro to you, but they can also seem bigger and much larger based on your perspective. Even if taken out of context, they're really the same size. Please go forth and look up some more information on the World Wide Web if you're still curious about the nuances of the why, that these things that sound like compliments can be interpreted by somebody as being a negative, and not just interpreted, but realize that they are. And just make sure that you live a life that is respectful, and when somebody calls you out on a microaggression, or as we like to say, calls you in, that is something special and they trust you. Thank you so much. I hope you have an awesome day.